So I just got back from opening day, opening show screening of Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, the new, I guess, first feature film adaptation of the decades old, or let's say long running role playing game owned by Hasbro now. I learned from the credits. And boy, was this a lot of fun. You know, I saw the trailers and I wasn't quite sure what to make of it. It looked silly and it looked goofy and a lot of special effects and maybe not the kind of film for me. But I like to take a chance on things. I know that trailers are designed to target specific audiences. Trailers are designed to get butts in seats, and they don't always represent what you're ultimately going to get for a film. Now, in this case, it did. It just the film worked for me much more than I expected. But I really had a good time with this as a matinee, you know. And so directed by the same men who gave you one of them, a former actor on Freaks and Geeks, funny enough, people who gave you the Game Night film and also the Vacation remake from a few years ago. This is a tale of a band of misfits with various sets of specific skills who are out to vanquish a foe. I'm going to be as generic as possible. No, I'll give you the story. So you got your Chris Pine. You got your Michelle Rodriguez. They're close friends, not that way. They're just close friends. Pine has been widowed because some evil force, some evil wizard killed his wife and left him a widower with a daughter. And Michelle Rodriguez is a compatriot, and they're thieves who are looking to steal back the amulet from a former associate of theirs who has made off with it. And that's Hugh Grant. And it's funny now, I don't want to give anything away, but I think the trailer pretty much does if you've seen the trailer. It's interesting where the coin turned at some point, and Hugh Grant went from dashing, quirky, cute leading man to villain or scoundrel in just about most of what he's in these days, which is kind of interesting. Hugh Grant has the amulet they need to get back so that they can bring Chris Pine's wife back from the dead, and there's a whole lot more than that going on. We have the group that needs to be part of this quest grows. You have Sophia Lillis, who most people probably know as the little red-haired girl from It, the It feature film series. You have Regé-Jean Page, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, Regé-Jean Page. How about R.J. Page as a very competent wizard, and Justice Smith as a very low self-esteem, marginally competent wizard, and all of them together are off on a quest with, indeed, it does literally contain Dungeons and Dragons and practical makeup effects on occasion, and practical creature effects. And there's a lot of CGI because that's the world we live in, but it was really cool to see some practical effects here and there, and very cool sets. Now, in the world we live in, again, of CGI and green screen, who knows how much of those sets were actually there and how much of it was, you know, created in a computer, but it had a really cool look to it. And the movie's funny. It does not take itself seriously. I would say think of... It's not quite as silly, but there was a show called Gallivant a few years ago on ABC that was a lot of fun. That was a medieval times musical comedy. The Army of Darkness, to a tiny degree. I got little glimpses of that in here. It's just a fun adventure film. And I'm not a big fantasy guy for the most part. I never was into Dungeons and Dragons. I had friends who played it. I had one of the action figures, the really cool action figure that was like the guy with the helmet. You couldn't see his face, and he had red glowing eyes and these two like Bullwinkle metal things, and he had arms and a sword. That was a cool action figure. That's about as much as I know about Dungeons & Dragons. I used to watch Wizards and Warriors, which was a CBS early 80s TV series knockoff of Dungeons & Dragons when that was first popular. That was also a comedy. So in a way, this kind of harkens back to Wizards and Warriors, that Jeff Conaway show, if you remember that. And I know that there was a Dungeons & Dragons cartoon that people have a fondness for, but this was all relatively fresh to me. I know it was going to be, as I said, I presumed it would contain Dungeons, Dragons, wizardry, and all kinds of things like that. The Sophia Lillis character I didn't mention earlier, she is a shapeshifter, which is very cool, and there's a really cool sequence where she's trying to escape from, dare I say it, a fortress, and she goes through, the camera follows her transforming through multiple creatures to get out. Very creative, very clever, very funny, and I laughed out loud a couple times during this movie, which I sadly don't do in a lot of modern comedies. And I thought it was exciting. I had a little bit of heart, you know, when it wanted to. The effects were good, I would say, and it was PG-13. Which is, I have no strong feelings either way on that, but I was halfway through the movie and I'm like, what is this rated? Because, you know, once you hit a certain age, it doesn't matter anymore. They let you into anything. And sometimes I'll watch a movie and try to play, the guessing game. What is this rated anyway? And I'm like, could this possibly be a PG movie that's this fun and literally appeals to all ages? Apparently it's PG-13. I think for a little battle, I don't know. I didn't read the little thing under the rating, which usually amuses me. Scenes of historical violence or scenes of peril sometimes. And I think it maybe has maybe two softly profane utterances in the film. There's no real gore. There's no nudity. There's nothing really objectionable. I'd say pretty much any kid, this is probably good to take to, and they would probably enjoy it. In the long run, is this a classic? No. Is this going to be another Army of Darkness? No. Is this going to be another Jason and the Argonauts? Probably not. But it's a lot of fun, and I would recommend seeing it in the theater. I have the AMC A-List subscription thing, so I like to use it. So honestly, the two reasons I went to see this movie was to record a review so I could let people know about it, and to make sure I got my money's worth from A-List. So I went and I saw this in IMAX. It's not an IMAX movie, it's just a gigantic screen. Big picture, good sound. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. It's one of those things that I file under fun matinee. And to me, a fun matinee is an escapist, fun adventure that is like bubblegum. You pop it in your mouth, or your eyeballs in this case. Pop a film in your mouth, it doesn't taste so good. Pop it in your mouth, you chew it, you enjoy it for as long as the flavor lasts. When it's done, you discard it, you never think about it again. Backhanded compliment, I guess. That's Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. I would be happy if they made another one of these. I don't know that they will, but I don't see that this is probably going to be that big a success. So I would say see this in the theater if you think this sounds interesting, because it's a lot of fun. See it with a crowd if you can. I miss a crowd laughing at this film, because the matinee that I went to, being that it was a weekday on a Thursday, there was one other person in the entire gigantic theater. To dive back in a little bit, Chris Pine, effortlessly charming, very funny, very self-deprecating. Michelle Rodriguez kicks ass as the warrior lady in this. Some pretty good fight choreography, although at times I would say it was kind of thrown away in how it was shot, which sadly is typical of how most Hollywood films that aren't a John Wick movie show us action. But it did a decent enough job to show you who was doing what to who. I just felt like, as always, it could have had half the number of cuts. The camera could have been about 8 feet farther back, and it could have used a tripod on occasion. But the hand-to-hand combat scenes are a lot of fun. The wizarding scenes are a lot of fun. And I just thought it was a clever, entertaining movie, and I don't always ask for a heck of a lot more than that. So in theaters now from Paramount and Hasbro, funny enough, Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves.